Hi, good morning, students. Today, the topic for discussion will be Chapter 1 of Paper 5 of CA Final New Syllabus, subject Strategic Cost Management and Performance Evaluation. And the chapter title is Introduction to Strategic Cost Management. Now, before we move forward, let us try to just look at the past in terms of what is it that we have learned about costing in intermediate CA syllabus. We have been looking at cost accounting more from a decision making perspective, the various different techniques of costing, and the traditional cost accounting methods as well. We have understood that in traditional cost accounting, overheads typically used to be distributed department wise, which was actually looked at by management in later days as kind of an impediment in terms of being able to take more effective decisions. To correct that anomaly, management came up with this thought, or business came up with this thought of activity based costing, wherein the concept of cost drivers were introduced and processes were divided into multiple steps or activities, and costs were computed for each activity, which would enable businesses to be able to better control their costs. So, primarily in the historic days, cost accounting used to look essentially at cost reduction and cost control as its primary goal. But then, given the current day scenario wherein businesses are becoming extremely complex and competitive, and business strategy assumes a lot of significance, it is very important for us to understand that there must prevail a connect. When I say connect, it must be a very effective connect between cost accounting and business strategies. This is what is being addressed through this subject, strategic cost management, wherein the business community has realized that to be able to survive in today's environment by being able to service customer needs, one must be able to have a competitive advantage, failing which it is not possible for businesses to survive. And if a business needs a competitive advantage, it must be able to utilize its cost accounting related information, not just from the perspective of controlling costs or reducing costs, but also from the perspective of how would it help the management achieve its overall business strategy. Now, the study material that is being used as the basis for the discussion is as of January 2019 edition. So we kick off from here, and we notice that, well, there would definitely be a difference between traditional cost accounting and strategic cost management based on my initial overview to you. Students will have to remember that these sessions can only serve as a helping hand to the student. It is critical that the student returns and take up their study material from the perspective of doing self-study and understanding, and then of course coming back with doubts if any. Now, strategic cost management, as I said, will have to be tied to the business strategy. And in CA intermediate, in strategic management paper itself, we have understood that there is something called a vision, a mission, and an objective of each business. We have understood how critical it is for a business to know what business they are in, what is the purpose they are in for, what is it that they want to be in the future, and how would they plan to achieve those or that vision by setting medium-term and short-term goals and objectives. We have already covered this as part of our CA intermediate syllabus. and I believe that those aspects will be pretty clear to each of you. Now, coming to the components of strategic management, there are three broad components involved in strategic cost management. One is strategic positioning, two is cost driver analysis, and three is value chain analysis, which also in a way will be linked to something, a concept called value shop model, the later part of the session. Now let's pick up the strategic positioning. Now, when we talk about strategic positioning, it is very important for us to understand that positioning in business is extremely important for any business player. If ever a doubt arises as to whether it is critical to maintain the appropriate positioning, just take a step back and think about a cricket field, a cricket match, or for example, a soccer match, a football match. And just imagine if we take cricket and expand it a little. What would be the position if the fielders are not set appropriately? Then what would be the net effect? Probably the opponent would have an easy win because catches could not probably be taken. So we understand positioning is critical to be able to fight in a battle. Same rule applies even to business, because you have in an industry several firms or competitors. It's very important what exactly would be your strategic positioning vis-a-vis your competitors. Each firm in the industry would obviously be doing some exercise of this type. So this is the reason as to why in our CA intermediate we are taught what is the vision, the mission, and the importance of having objectives, goals, and strategies itself. So the management of a business entity will have to decide on its strategic positioning in the market in terms of what would be their approach to target customers, how would they want to deliver their product, for which they will have to have an analysis conducted of its own internal environment, could be resources, competencies, probably the strengths, weaknesses, the external environment as well, maybe the opportunities that are being thrown up by the business, the environment, the threats that they are exposed to, as well as the connect, which is the organizational values, its own culture, its own technological systems, etc. So through all of these, the business will be able to arrive at its own strategic positioning, which is very critical. Now, once that happens, the business will have to move on with the next component, which will deal with cost driver analysis. Now, again, as part of our CA intermediate new syllabus, we have had this topic in cost and management accounting as activity-based costing. There, the heart and soul of that entire chapter revolves around cost drivers for each activity. So here, to extend it further, we just can't look at costs always from the perspective of volumes, in the sense making a statement that cost will be directly proportional to volume and I am just interested in trying to reduce my cost. This is something which is part of your traditional cost accounting philosophy. Now, as I was indicating, businesses have started using in a very big way activity-based costing to be able to analyze or gather in-depth knowledge about their cost components at the most granular level, which is per activity. So each activity in the process is being identified and the costs that are being incurred for each activity, which will obviously be linked to what makes that activity incur a cost. When I say what makes it incur a cost, it means the cost driver. What are those factors that will basically go to increase or decrease the cost for that particular activity? For example, if one were to have meals, depends on what exactly would we want to have, or how many numbers would we want to have. The more the numbers of, for example, a bhel puri plate or maybe an orange juice we consume, the higher and higher would be the bill. So the driver is the number of units that is being consumed. Now, cost, when we look at the cost driver analysis, cost drivers can be analyzed into structural cost drivers as well as executional cost drivers. Now, when I look at the concept of cost driver and I say there is something termed as structural cost drivers, I hope we understand that there is a big difference between an organization which is huge in structure and something which is small in structure. For example, again in strategic management in intermediate, we have learned different types of organizational structures. Maybe something like a functional structure, a matrix structure, a network structure, an hourglass structure, etc., etc. And we've also understood that each structure is pertinent only in a particular set of circumstances. You can't apply the divisional structure or the strategic business unit structure at a very small level. It requires the size of an organization to be quite big. So, when I have a structure which is huge, that automatically propels me to incur certain types of costs, which I can't do away with because my structure is of the type. For example, if a person wants to have a pet and an option is given between a dog and an elephant, if one were to choose an elephant calf as a pet, obviously the expenditure is not going to be of the same size as it would be if a dog had been maintained. After having adopted the elephant calf, the person can't crib about the fact that I am being made to spend so much. The structure itself makes you spend certain things. Now, apart from that, there is something called the executional cost drivers. And these cost drivers basically depend on the management's style and policy of functioning. For example, management might take a call that we would want to give our brochures to customers based on glazed paper, for example, not on the basic type of paper or stationery. That would obviously cost you more. They might go for laser printers and not for dot matrix printers, for example, or jet printer. Maybe that could impact your cost as well. So these are executional cost drivers. So we understand that cost drivers can be analyzed into structural cost drivers as well as executional cost drivers. Now, in strategic cost management, I would not want to say that volumes are not at all relevant or important. They are, but then everything, by which I mean cost management, hovers around business strategy. How would the cost management help us achieve our business strategy? So this is relating to your cost driver analysis, one part. The next one deals with your value chain analysis, the third component of strategic cost management, value chain analysis. Now, when we talk about value chain analysis, the first thing hopefully that should strike us is Michael Porter, who had given us this concept of value chain analysis. The term is hopefully self-explanatory. All of us understand by the term value chain and analysis. What is it? Nevertheless, all that is involved in value chain analysis in simple terms is any person who is performing any activity will certainly have a starting point and an ending point, by which I mean raw materials would be sourced from some place, okay, and it would be delivered to the end customer, correct? This is what typically happens in any process. Now, let's term this as end to end, right from the starting stage, which is sourcing your raw material, until delivering the final product to your customer. Depending on the nature of the product, the complexity of the processing would vary. Though certain generic steps will obviously be involved in any type of processing. Now the point is, in value chain analysis, what we try to do is we try to break up or analyze from end to end what are the different steps involved in converting my raw material into a finished product or a service and delivering it to my end customer or consumer. What are all those steps? Now, why is it that the management is interested in identifying what are those individual steps? Something similar to your activity-based cost. For each of those steps, the management tries to identify, is this something which contributes value to my consumer or does it fail the test? Meaning, this particular step does not add any value to my customer. Now, obviously, customer who is wanting to purchase a product purchases it only if he or she perceives a value in that product. And when they are perceiving a value, they are willing to pay for it. Now, if the customer pays money to the organization for something which the management itself feels is not adding value, then why would you want to deliver that as part of your package to the customer? Maybe you could cut it short. Why? It still doesn't affect the overall perception of the customer in terms of the value he or she derives from having consumed that particular product. So, in our value chain analysis, management of the business is interested in identifying those soft points which will basically be the key aspects to be looked at or to be investigated further. Why? If it doesn't contribute any value, delete it. It doesn't affect the customer's perception. Whatever contributes value, we need to concentrate further on those steps. Why? To ensure that there are no slip-ups that occur there. And then we talk about this. A value chain analysis obviously will help an organization attain either cost leadership in the industry or it will help the organization better differentiate its product. Correct? So, we understand that value chain analysis ultimately should help the organization obtain cost leadership or product differentiation as its strategy in the business to survive. And obviously, more of resources will have to be deployed by the organization in those activities which will help it produce products which are considered as valuable by the customers. Now, since you would have seen value chain analysis, hopefully even in an intermediate, we would not be dwelling at length about this topic in terms of its components. For example, briefly I'll just narrate. We have this value chain analysis as per Michael Porter, which is analyzed into the primary activities and the secondary or the support activities. The primary activities primarily deal with procuring the raw materials and converting it into the finished products. It involves firm infrastructure, the human resources management, the technology development, and the procurement. These four will be your secondary activities or support activities, not your primary activities. And the primary activities will be 5 of them, which will deal with inbound logistics, which is procuring materials, operations, which will be assembling and converting it into your finished products. And once it is converted, it will have to be dispatched to the warehouse. So outbound logistics would be involved to the distributors, to the retailers maybe. And from there, it might have to be marketed and sold. So marketing and sales, and then post sales, there could also be this service which is involved, after sales service. So these 5 components represent your primary activities, which should be supported by your support activities. Now, each of this is dealt with at a little bit in detail in your study material. You could refer your study material for further details. Now, with this as the background,